Hi, hello, how are you? um, Today we're going to be reviewing a book that I bought maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I think. Definitely at least 5 years ago. And I really like it. And I shared it a long time ago, probably in one of the very first videos I ever did, with a bunch of other books under a book recommendation video. But I was looking through it again today, and I just really love this book, and I thought that I would share it with you all here as a video in of itself. So, the book is The Veil's Edge, Exploring the Boundaries of Magic by Willow Poulsen. And it's wonderful. I found this book, as I said, about 5 or 6 years ago by searching in Google advanced paganism, because I was tired of like 101 type of books, right? Which I think a lot of us are after you're in the path for a couple of years. And this book does not disappoint on that. So, with that said, this is a bit of a disclaimer here at the beginning of the video. If you are new to witchcraft or to Wicca or to other forms of paganism, this video is probably not for you. This book is probably not for you. This book deals with very advanced themes. And anywho, let's just get into it. So, the book is not huge, but it is packed with like so much good information. With that said, let's see. I'm going to show you exactly. A huge beginning chunk of this book, about 38 pages worth, is just the author explaining to you how quantum physics explains how magic is real. Which is interesting. That's fun. However, it just goes on for a little while. But she brings up a lot of, or they, I'm not sure. Brings up a lot of interesting topics that just go on for a little while. And at some points it's a little tangenty, but we all do that. So yes, she brings up a lot of interesting points, about like how magic and witchcraft can be explained through science. It's very fascinating. She talks about like this like hive mind theory of humans, and it's worth your time. Don't skip the first 38 pages. She also talks about how reality is an illusion, right? And she uses science all through this chapter to explain that. Such as how like a leaf is not necessarily actually green. A leaf is just reflecting the green spectrum of light off of itself. It's absorbing all the other colors, but not green. So you're perceiving it as a green-colored leaf, when in actuality, isn't the leaf probably nothing? It's colored nothing. Are all things colored nothing? And we just reflect the colors that we don't absorb. It's just interesting. She talks about, in chapter 3, the veil between the worlds. And this is where it gets, like I said, very much for advanced magicians, magic practitioners. She talks about, the veil between the worlds and how to open that veil. Controversy abounds in that statement. But she talks about how to open it, what lies on the other side. So, like this diagram, right? If you can see that, it's our reality, and then opening to Avalon, Asgard, Hades, etc. And she talks about like having near-death experiences and how that can transport you across the veil. She talks about how meditation and literally like she describes some rituals in which to actually like rip open the fabric of reality. It's very interesting. albeit maybe dangerous. And she talks about doing it by yourself, but she also talks about doing it with a group. Interesting techniques too. Like, she talks about like using actual things in place of the veil. So like to symbolize the veil, the group is holding like a sheet to symbolize the veil. And she talks about cleansing the veil in your area, sewing up holes in the veil, establishing a permanent portal in the veil, a door that will always be there for you. Oh, yeah, and she calls it veil crossing, but she talks about in the group, you know, like I said, you all opening the veil together, establishing permanent holes in the veil or doors, closing up existing holes. It's very interesting. She talks about shamanism, which I appreciate because in this book she really never talks about using tools of any kind. No sage, no candles, no wands, no brooms, nothing. No divination sets. Just you, yourself, and the world. It's really cool. She talks about how a shaman differs from a witch and if they are the same or not. I want to show you. Oh yes, here we go. She talks about the importance of makeup and costuming in magical practice, and that's something that's very close to my practice. I use makeup every single time I do magic, like every single time. I cover myself in symbols. I paint myself in glamorous makeup. Makeup is very important, and so are costumes. They help you achieve the goals that you want. They help you visualize what you need. They help you manifest it. But also they help you kind of take yourself outside of yourself. When you dress as something else, or when you're channeling the energy of someone else or some other part of yourself, it helps you get out of your own way to cast the spell. I also wanted to show you that she does talk about drug and alcohol use in a smart way, in terms of also achieving that altered state. She talks about dance and trance work, sweat lodges, all manner of ways to alter your consciousness. But I want to show you, here we go. Chapter 5, Fey Blood, Fey Magic. She talks about, she talks about a couple of things in this, but she talks about the otherkin. Now, the otherkin were something that when I was coming into the craft were huge. We're talking about the late 90s, the early 2000s. This community was like blowing up, and it's still there. It's still here on the internet, but it has gone very underground, and its numbers have massively dwindled because I think that the otherkin community attracts so many type of like role play people, like people who are just wanting to have fun. So you really have to dig to find the serious people. Otherkin could be its own video on this channel. But essentially, otherkin are people who feel that their spirits are not human beings. Like, they are in a human body, but their spirit inside of them is not human. So she talks about that. Oh, she talks about glamour bombing and glamour magic. And she talks about this, which I think is neat, this idea of, like, manipulating your aura, right? So, here, a person is drawing their aura backwards over themselves. Instead of your aura like emanating out from you, she's saying pull it in and push it back, to help you work with like invisibility spells, which is interesting. Also, like, this makes me think of a book called Advanced Witchcraft by Dan McCoy, where she talks about shaping your aura in the shape of needles or hammers as an offensive way to use magic. And again, these are all advanced techniques. I would not recommend this for baby witches or pagans or magical practitioners. Here we go. Here's a good picture of what I was talking about when she talks about using like sigils and symbols and things to close up doors and tears in the veil that you see in the world, to close portals. It's very helpful information. She talks about stretching them out over the land. Like, we're talking huge, massive, like, see how big that's like over a mountain. But she's talking about like people who are far from each other, especially in today's global community, like in today's internet community. This is particularly helpful. Talking about casting spells together from long distances and connecting that energy together over the planet. It's very cool. Again, advanced techniques. She talks about enclosing yourself in a bubble of energy as a means of spellcasting, like safety, but also as a vehicle to transport you through the worlds without absorbing their energy. So, like, what that means is, like, say you are embarking on an astral journey to Hades to do some shadow work. To kind of protect yourself from that, like, Hades energy or spirits that might not have your best interest in mind, she talks about going inside of a vehicle, this energetic bubble that you charge with sigils and runes, any symbols of your choice. You use the energy of that around you, of spirits, of plants, and, you know, it's very cool. And again, advanced techniques. She does talk about chakras. Again, she brings up science a lot in this. A lot. Which I appreciate. I like when we can take a logical approach to some of these wild things that happen in our pagan path. She talks about channeling. Channeling is huge for me. You may have heard it as drawing down the moon or drawing down the sun, which would be like channeling gods and goddesses respectively. Taking a spirit into you and letting them use your body and speak through you. Yeah, you've all heard of that. She talks about that. And safe ways to do that, which is good, because if you just jump into it, it's a little wild and overwhelming. Speaking from experience. She does give you some guided meditations to do, which are always nice. She talks about, what I like is she doesn't just give you an idea for something, she really breaks it down. So on channeling spirits, she'll talk about, like, you know, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like, how to carry it through. She doesn't just say, this is how you do it, this is how you end it. She tells you, this is how you do it, this is how you start it, this is how you maintain it, and this is how you wrap it up. She gives you a full formula to follow. It's wonderful. One thing that I think is cool, too, is that she covers what I call remote viewing, which I know a lot of people use that term. And remote viewing is like, it's almost like astral projection, but not quite. It's seeing something from very far away from where you are not right now. So instead of me seeing this room in which I'm in, I will start seeing something 3 blocks down from my house, and I will observe that. And she talks about techniques to do that. So, like, such as seeing through the eyes of a bird, by casting your consciousness into that bird and seeing through its eyes. Again, controversial, also very advanced witchcraft that we're talking about. She talks in general about trusting your intuition. There's a chapter about it. And about growing your intuition, learning to see and experience things in ways that you're not used to. So people always want to think about seeing magic, seeing energy, seeing spirits. But maybe you only hear them. Maybe you don't see them. Maybe you only smell things. Maybe you only taste things. Maybe you only feel things. Maybe you just know things. Things just pop into you. You got to be open to receiving messages from the other side in all of your senses. And she talks about healing people and using your intuition in that way. Like, you may see flashes of light on their body. You may see tangled knots in their body. You may be touching them and feeling hot spots in their body, cold spots, tingly spots, spiky spots, dirty spots. You may smell certain spots. It's just fascinating advanced witchcraft. I love it. We love to see it. Oh, this is interesting. She talks about, you know, shielding yourself in public and how you may be already doing it and it's not working for you. Like how you may be pushing people away because of the shields you're putting up without even realizing it. So that's interesting. She does do she talks about it all through the book, along with science, that being group work and coven work, but she does devote a chapter to it, which is interesting. Sorry if you hear that. There's like a truck backing up outside. But anywho, she goes into detail about doing ritual with groups, which is very helpful if you are in a group. It's a pretty lengthy chapter. And it's... Oh, that's the last chapters. But yeah, it's really good. See, so this is interesting. In her conclusion, the first thing she says is, throughout the book, I have been warning you to be extremely cautious when attempting anything too far outside your own knowledge or abilities. And she says, this book was written for the experienced practitioner. And so perhaps some of this information is nothing new to someone who has been there, done that, but also this could be something very invoking for new people. So, yeah. The Veil's Edge, if you are in this magic game for a while, you should check this book out. It's wonderful. Thought-provoking. Intriguing. It's really good. It was published in like 2003, but don't let that deter you. I don't know why that would. Books, just like music and film, are immortal. They stand forever. So, go check this book out. And I think you'll like it. I think it'll help you branch off maybe in some new areas on your path, or maybe to go back to the basics and strengthen those basics in your path. Because that's something we always need to do as we move forward. Anywho, The Veil's Edge, Willa Polson. It's really good. Go check it out. Thank you so much. And goodbye.